Welcome to the Venari Podcast and the next episode in our Biopharma Chief Commercial Officer series. My name is Joe Knight and I lead the commercial function within the life sciences and healthcare practice at Venari Partners. I'm joined today by Kerry Clem, who is Chief Commercial Officer at Accorda Therapeutics. Kerry has taken progressively senior roles at Accorda since joining in 2011 as VP of Sales, following a number of sales and marketing roles in various biotech companies. In the podcast today, we're talking utilizing AI in a commercial setting, team builds ahead of a launch, and success and failure on market. Hi, Kerry. Welcome to the Venari Podcast.
Oh, Joe, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome to have you with us. So, Kerry, maybe let's start with you. Tell us a bit about your career to date.
Yeah, absolutely. As you mentioned, I'm currently the Chief Commercial Officer at Accorda Therapeutics. I've been with Accorda for 13 years, actually as of yesterday. So I guess that kind of makes me thank you. I guess that makes me kind of a relic in this industry, if you will. But I started off like most on the commercial side as a sales representative with Sharing Plow a little more than 25 years ago. I carried the bag in the primary care space and was able to go into sales management with Sharing Plow. But I, at the time, still had this leftover entrepreneurial itch, if you will, from actually running my own business with a couple of partners prior to getting into pharma. And that itch led me to wanting to kind of try my luck over in the startup small pharma space. And so I left Sharing and spent about 10 years getting some great learnings as well as bumps and bruises, working with small startups that are publicly as well as privately held, mostly in CNS and oncology. And so, a lot of great experience there, like I said, with building and doing some turning around. Until I landed with Accorda, like I said, about 13 years ago. And so, along the way, had a chance to take on various commercial roles that I think really helped me round out my skill set, if you will, before getting the opportunity to come with Accorda.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd like to talk about that experience at Accorda, if you're happy to. You took on progressively more and more responsibility within the business, culminating in obviously becoming Chief Commercial Officer now. Do you have any advice for execs interested in becoming CCOs? Anything that you'd have done differently or you think helped you along the way?
When I came to Accorda, I was the VP of Sales. And so I was overseeing the sales force as well as our sales operations. And we were, still kind of a growing startup, commercial organization. And so, along the way, there's obviously a lot that goes on in a growing organization. And so I was able to just take on, various cross-functional, responsibilities as we continue to grow. Some that were just kind of a natural part of commercial leadership growth, and others were, just unique to the company and the company needs at that time. So not only taking on other responsibilities, I had the opportunity to build out 3 new departments along the way. And so I've always had the attitude that, whatever's needed, wherever you need me to fill in, just let me know and we'll take it on. And I think, that was one of the main things that kind of helped me, continue to elevate and grow, over my tenure here at the company and prepare me to take on the role of Chief Commercial Officer. I think that, for folks that are, looking to, get into this particular role, it's important first to, I think, really understand the role and know why it is you want to do what a Chief Commercial Officer does, right? Oftentimes, it just seems like a natural progression that people want to get to, right? It's a title, it's a position, but you really need to, understand why it is you want to do what we're responsible for doing. And then once you understand that, then I would suggest that people look for ways to either formally or informally expand their skill sets and begin to do the job, if you will, before getting the job. So when the opportunity comes, you're able to articulate how you've done a lot of the things that the Chief Commercial Officer is responsible for doing, before you actually get that opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that breadth of experience is really helpful, and obviously something that you've lent on over the time. Excellent. So in our discussions before this, we talked a bit about AI and how that's affecting the commercial business within pharma. I think we could say the AI revolution is upon us and has been for some time. How do you go about incorporating AI into your commercial strategy and managing the infiltration of data?
Right, AI is the new thing, right? It's a new buzzword. I'm a Chat GPT user, like a lot of folks. I'm probably at the lower end of the competency scale, if you will. And I think that's important to note as well. I'm not the AI expert. However, I'm very fortunate in that I'm surrounded by AI experts. Long before AI became this big wave in our industry, my team has been leveraging AI, machine learning, and other aspects for a number of years now. As a small organization, we're very fortunate, and it's probably unique to have our own in-house digital team. And so, and this team has grown up in the company and really understand, how to apply and utilize, AI and the various technologies. And so we've been using it to create content, to help support our forecasting models and other areas for a number of years. And so it's really been helpful for us as a small company because it allows you to be able to do things that larger companies with more resources and more people are able to do, right? So it begins to level the playing field somewhat for a small organization when you're able to leverage, the valuable aspects of AI. I think like most other innovations, however, you still have to be diligent in your application of it. It's one of those things that is easy to get lured into relying heavily on it without double checking it. And just like, today you can go into, many of these platforms to create, like a portrait, and it comes out with, 3 ears and 6 fingers. You can get the same kind of, mess in your data output if you're not careful. So not all AI is valuable, or not all AI driven programs are valuable. But there's quite a bit of great programs that are out there that have really helped us be able to punch above our weight, if you will, as a small company, and leveraging them the right way.
Yeah, nice. Is there anything specific that you think has really been driven by AI at Accorda?
I think for us, we've used it heavily in our digital marketing, and that's really helped us. We've transitioned, not completely away, but quite a bit away from a lot of the traditional marketing things that we've done in the past and relied heavily on digital. And we've seen a great impact with that. My team was able to launch their first television commercial this year, as well as some radio ads and do some other things without in the in the digital world, with social media and et cetera, that they've relied heavily in using AI on that. In the past, we would have had to go out and, work with big agencies and organizations to get it done. And a lot of these things we're able to do in-house. A lot of the non-personal promotion that we do directly with our customers, like rep-triggered emails and physician-driven details that they do on their own has all been done through our digital team. So for us, leveraging it in our marketing space has really been helpful. And then, conversely, we're also using it, like I said, quite a bit in our analytics and how we go about, really understanding our customer, and enhancing our targeting, through those means.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks. Really, really interesting to hear about how you're utilizing that. Let's talk about team building next. Obviously, a very important aspect of the chief commercial officer role. How do you go about structuring, planning, hiring, and then motivating your commercial team?
Building in this space is really exciting, and it's one of the things that I really get excited about. I like to build. And so, it really first depends on where a company is and what phase. You talk about, launch, right? So, what do you need structurally for pre-launch, for launch, and for growth? And that really kind of begins to drive, the development of the structure from a hiring perspective. I've always been a believer in doing build outs and being strategically undersized. One of the things that I hate seeing in our industry is the need for organizations to have to go through downsizing and significant restructuring because they've outbuilt the business, right? They've built these big infrastructures, and that requires that the business catch up to the build. And so I believe that being strategically undersized does a couple of things. Number one, it takes a very small group of highly skilled people, and it requires them to do a little bit more than the job description would normally do. And that inherently has a lot of great job satisfaction, right? Because people feel like they're contributing a lot more to the organization. They can work cross-functionally and do various different things. But it also protects your organization should you have some type of downfall or downturn in the market, right? Because every forecast, every business plan is inherently going to have a problem. And so being strategically undersized allows you to protect yourselves when that happens, so you're able to protect your personnel through those challenges. And then I also think in building, I'm a big proponent of attribute-based hiring. There are a lot of great people that are out there that have significant skill sets and have been very successful right in our industry. But I also think it's important that you bring people on board that have attributes to be successful within your company, right? They have to be a great cultural fit, but they also have to be able to operate in your current environment. And just because someone was highly successful at another organization in other disease states, right, in other environments, doesn't necessarily mean that's going to translate over into success within your company. So, ensuring that you're aligned in the attributes that are going to be required for someone to be successful within your company, I think is key in the hiring process. And then getting back lastly to your question about motivating, people will tell you, and I will tell you, I'm not a big rah-rah person. That's never been my personality. I think that, as mature professionals, a lot of the motivation that you have has to be internal. And people come to growing companies, to startups, to small companies for various reasons, but we all do have a shared objective. And I think, as a leader, it's important to keep that shared objective in front of everyone at all times and continue to show them how the things that they're doing tie back to us hitting and driving that shared objective. And within that, the motivation just stays constant, right? I'm a trend line kind of guy. I don't want to be pulled down by some of the challenges and get too hyped up. When we have, a win one day, I think if you keep everyone consistent, keep everyone focused on the overall shared objective, then the motivation level stays where it needs to be to get the job done.
Yeah, awesome. And I guess if you're building teams as lean as that, you need to really emphasize the talent, right? You can't carry any dead weight if you're building an undersized team.
100%, 100%. You need people that can do things outside of their normal scope, right, of that job description. When you're building teams like that, you can't have a lot of folks that are just, truly individualized and specialized in one thing, right? We want to call, folks utility knives, or utility players. But the fact is, you do need people that have the capacity to do, things outside of that traditional role in order to get things done.
Awesome. Well, final question, Kerry, and thank you for this. I'd like to ask you about the commercial trends that you've seen at Accorda, more broadly in the industry as well. What have you noticed over the last year, and what do you anticipate in the coming years?
Our industry is extremely dynamic, as you well know, and there's so many different players and so many moving parts that then in turn creates a lot of different trends. I think as a commercial leader, one of the things that I'm really focused on is the changing commercial approach to the business, which includes, the structure, the planning, as well as the execution. A lot has changed with our customers' needs and, how we address their needs, meeting them where they want to be met. Our access to them has changed. A lot has changed in government regulations, and our ability to interact with our customers. And a lot has changed, with the patients and their level of involvement in their care. And so for us, what I'm seeing is just a need for us to take a step back and really assess how we go about doing our business. The days of old of, large sales forces with, individual and unique roles where you've got 4 or 5 people calling on the same account, doing various things, is no longer viable. And so kind of going back to what we're talking about, the various skill sets of folks in a startup, I think, you're going to begin seeing more of that just in general in the industry of hybrid roles, where, you have one person that has the ability to address, a multitude of things at an account level, smaller teams, more, strategically targeted teams, and the incorporation of a lot more non-personal promotion, digital, type of, supporting, programs to go along with what the teams are doing. So yeah, it's really, more in general, just about the evolution of the commercial structure and making sure that we are aligning ourselves appropriately in order to be successful in this new environment, because the situation has definitely changed and we have to get ahead of it.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, look, Kerry, thank you so much for joining the Venari podcast. Really appreciate it. And yeah, thanks for sharing your thoughts.
Joe, it's a pleasure. And I thank you for the opportunity to be able to speak with you today.